Hey everyone, and welcome. Let's talk about something that I bet so many of you have felt. You are completely wiped out. You know you need to rest, but the second you even try to stop, bam, a wave of guilt just washes over you. Why does doing absolutely nothing feel so wrong? Well, that's exactly what we're going to get into today.
Right? I mean, does that hit home for anyone else? It's this crazy internal battle, isn't it? Your body is just screaming for a pause. But your brain has other plans. It just refuses to quiet down. And if that's you, I really want you to hear this. You are so not alone. This is an incredibly common struggle in our always on world. So, yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? Why does stillness feel so unsafe? I mean, resting should feel good. It should be a relief. So why does it so often feel kind of dangerous? We're going to unpack all of it, the psychology, the neuroscience, the whole shebang.
All right, first up, let's actually put a name to this feeling, because it's not just some vague, fuzzy thing in the background. There are real terms for what we experience, and just knowing them can be super validating. The first one is pretty straightforward. Rest guilt. It's that twitchy, uneasy feeling that you haven't really earned your break yet. You know that little voice in your head that whispers, you should be doing something productive right now. Yep, that's it. And what's so important here is understanding that this is not a character flaw. It's not you being lazy. It's a learned response where we've somehow tied our entire sense of self-worth to how much we get done. Now, sometimes this feeling gets even more intense, and there's a clinical term for that. Relaxation-Induced Anxiety, or RIA for short. And it is such a paradox, right? The very act of trying to relax actually makes you more anxious. Your body tenses up, your heart might race. It's like your internal alarm system sees you relaxing and thinks, whoa, danger, the guard is falling asleep at their post. And it triggers your fight or flight response. And get this is not some rare fringe thing. In some studies, up to 53.8%, that's more than half, of people actually felt more anxious when they tried to relax with things like meditation. So if this has ever happened to you, you're not just not alone, you're literally in the majority. This paradox is way more common than you'd think. Okay, so what is actually going on in our brains to make this happen? Let's dive into the neuroscience of it all, because it's pretty fascinating how our own minds can fight so hard against the one thing we desperately need. But before we get into the brain networks and all that, I want to say something really important. If this is you, please hear me. You are not broken. Your brain is not malfunctioning. It's actually doing exactly what it was designed to do: survive. This response, as uncomfortable as it is, likely served a very real, very important purpose at some point in your life. Okay, so picture this. There's a kind of tug-of-war going on inside your head. On one side, you've got your Salience Network. Think of this as your brain's alarm system. It's always scanning the horizon for danger. On the other side is the default mode network. This is your rest and reflect mode. Now, when we experience rest guilt, that alarm system is just way too sensitive. It's on high alert all the time. So when you try to relax, it basically screams, this is a trap. It's a vulnerability. It hijacks the whole system, and your rest mode never really gets a chance to turn on. So why would the brain do that? It seems totally backwards, right? Well, there's a really interesting theory for this called the contrast avoidance model. And it suggests that, for some of us, our brains actually prefer to stay worried. They choose it. And the reason is, it acts as a kind of emotional buffer. Basically, the idea is this. For a brain wired with anxiety, the sudden shock of going from a super relaxed state to a super fearful one, well, that jump is perceived as way more distressing than just staying kind of anxious the whole time. It's a weird form of self-protection, isn't it? Your brain rejects calm because it wants to stay prepared to avoid that sudden, sharp jolt of bad news, even though, of course, it's totally exhausting to live that way. So these brain patterns don't just pop up out of the blue. So where does this all come from? Well, it turns out our personal histories and even the culture around us are huge factors in training our nervous systems to be in this constant state of overdrive. One of the deepest roots can go all the way back to childhood, to something called parentification. This is basically when the parent-child roles get flipped. The child is forced to take on adult responsibilities way too early. Things like managing the household, providing emotional support for a parent, or taking care of younger siblings. They essentially become a little adult before they're ready. And you can imagine the long-term effects of that are huge. A child in that situation learns a very, very powerful lesson deep in their nervous system. My value comes from being useful. My safety comes from being active. Stillness for them wasn't a luxury. It would have felt like abandoning a critical duty. So their brain literally learns to equate doing things with being safe. And then, on top of our personal histories, we have our culture. We are all swimming in this soup of what's often called internalized capitalism or hustle culture. And the message is everywhere, isn't it? Your worth is what you produce. It frames rest not as a biological necessity, but as some kind of reward you only get after you have completely burned yourself out. And that's why this quote from Tricia Hersey, who founded the NAP ministry, is so powerful. Rest is an act of resistance. Think about that. In a culture that literally profits from us being exhausted and constantly striving, choosing to rest isn't passive. It's not lazy. It is a radical, powerful act of self-preservation. Okay, so we've unpacked the what and the why. We get the problem. Now for the most important part, what do we do about it? In this last section, we're going to shift gears and talk about some real practical strategies for rewiring and recovery. And here is the absolute key to all of this. The goal is not to force yourself to calm down. You can't just bully your nervous system into relaxing. It doesn't work that way. The real goal is to gently, and I mean gently, help your body relearn what safety actually feels like. So how do we do that? A really effective technique is called titrated exposure to stillness. It sounds fancy, but it just means reintroducing rest in tiny, tiny doses. Like, step 1, just sit quietly for 1 minute. That's it. And during that minute, your job isn't to feel amazing. It's just to notice what happens in your body. Heart racing, urge to get up. Okay, then you just label it without judgment. My brain feels unsafe right now. And then you just stay with it. You're teaching your nervous system, bit by bit, that you can be still and you will be okay. Alongside that body-based work, we also have to work with our thoughts, the ones that fuel all this guilt. And this catch it, check it, change it model is a great tool. So you catch that automatic thought. Let's say it's, if I take a break, the whole day is a waste. Okay, then you check it. Is that really 100% true? Or is it all or nothing thinking? And finally, you change it to something more realistic and compassionate. Like, actually, a break will help me focus. Rest is part of the work. Here's another game changer. So often we think rest just means sleep or lying on the sofa. But it turns out there are actually 7 different types of rest. Maybe the exhaustion you're feeling isn't physical. Maybe you're mentally drained and need a break from problem solving. Or maybe you need sensory rest, getting away from screens and noise. Or emotional rest or social rest. When you can figure out which type of rest you actually need, it's so much easier to feel truly restored. So if you take away just one single thing from our conversation today, please let it be this. Rest is not a reward you earn. It is not a prize for reaching total exhaustion. It is a biological and emotional necessity, period. It's what sustains you. It's the foundation of your strength. And so that leaves us with one final thought. We're not talking about some massive, dramatic life change here. This is all about small, gentle steps. So I'll leave you with this question. What is one small way, just one, that you can reclaim your right to rest this week?